Wahoo! Alright, watch the suit. Clean that right up. See? Like new.
Well, you are not one of my dreamers.
Dreamers, screamers, dead folks, live folks, I am flexible.
This is my nightmare.
Hey, funny. I was just thinking the same thing about the afterlife.
There exists a moment no living mind can clearly remember, a fragile threshold between the final breath of life and the silent pull of death. In this fleeting instant, consciousness drifts through a narrow passage where dreams have not yet faded and the afterlife has not yet claimed its prize. The corridor between dream and death is not a place meant for conflict. It is a transition, a quiet passage where lost souls move unknowingly from one state of existence to another. But on one particular night, something goes wrong. A nightmare refuses to end, and a ghost refuses to wait his turn. Freddy Krueger enters through a dying mind still trapped in terror, while Beetlejuice slips through the cracks of the afterlife's bureaucracy, sensing an opportunity for chaos. Two forces from different universes arrive in the same fragile corridor, and suddenly, the boundary between nightmare and death begins to tear apart. On one side, we have Beetlejuice, the self-proclaimed bioexorcist, a chaotic spirit born from the strange bureaucratic afterlife of the Netherworld. His appearance is unsettling even among the dead. Pale skin marred by decay, tangled green hair, and a black and white striped suit that seems to mock the very idea of order. Beetlejuice is not a traditional monster. He is something far more unpredictable. A trickster ghost, capable of bending reality, warping space, summoning grotesque transformations, and weaponizing pure absurdity itself. Where he appears, logic collapses, and the rules of existence begin to behave like a bad joke told by the universe. On the other side stands Freddy Krueger, the burned executioner of nightmares, a former child murderer transformed into a dream demon fueled by fear and memory. His scarred flesh bears the mark of vengeance, his red and green sweater almost casual against the horror of his bladed glove. Freddy does not haunt the dead. He hunts the living through their dreams, where every shadow, every whisper, and every fear becomes a weapon he controls completely. One thrives on supernatural chaos beyond the rules of life. The other dominates the human mind when it is most vulnerable. But here, in the narrow corridor between dreaming and dying, their worlds collide. And when nightmare meets afterlife madness, the question becomes unavoidable. Who truly controls reality when reality itself begins to fall apart? We regularly post videos like this one, pitting iconic horror characters against each other to determine who would win. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of these epic showdowns. Beetlejuice is not simply a ghost. He is a loophole in the afterlife itself. Originating from the strange and bureaucratic supernatural world of the Netherworld, Beetlejuice exists as a rogue spirit who refuses to follow the rules that govern the dead. While most ghosts are bound by regulations, waiting rooms, and endless paperwork, Beetlejuice thrives in disorder. He manipulates the system rather than obeying it. Physically, Beetlejuice is far more durable than his decaying appearance suggests. His body can stretch, explode, flatten, or transform into grotesque shapes without suffering permanent damage. Conventional injury means almost nothing to him because his existence is no longer tied to a stable physical form. In many cases, destruction simply becomes another opportunity for transformation. Yet, his true power lies in his command over supernatural absurdity. Beetlejuice can summon creatures, reshape environments, and bend reality into unpredictable illusions that feel more like chaotic stage performances than structured attacks. His fighting style is erratic and theatrical, relying on surprise rather than discipline. Psychologically, Beetlejuice is reckless, manipulative, and endlessly opportunistic. Fear does not motivate him. Chaos does. Against most opponents, that unpredictability makes him incredibly dangerous. But Freddy Krueger does not fear chaos. He thrives on psychological control, and that introduces a very different kind of battlefield.
Outsmart the market with Base 44 super agents. Set up in seconds and ready to go. Want to know what your competitors are up to? Super agents will scrape, dig, and summarize.
Freddy Krueger is more than a killer. He is a parasite of the human mind. Once a child murderer burned alive by vengeful parents on Elm Street, Freddy returned not as a ghost, but as something far worse. A dream demon empowered by dark forces, capable of invading the subconscious of sleeping victims. Within dreams, Freddy does not merely attack. He becomes the architect of the entire world around his prey. Freddy's appearance reflects the violence that created him. His burned flesh, permanently scarred and twisted, is a reminder of his death, while his bladed glove transforms his hand into a tool of ritualized slaughter. Yet these weapons are only symbolic. Freddy's real power is psychological dominance. Inside a dream, Freddy can reshape reality without limit. Gravity, distance, time, and physical form become meaningless under his control. Victims can be stretched, crushed, drowned, or transformed into objects of mockery before they even understand what is happening. Fear strengthens him, feeding the supernatural force that sustains his existence. More importantly, Freddy is a predator of vulnerability. He studies his victims, exploiting their guilt, trauma, and terror. Where Beetlejuice introduces chaos into reality, Freddy introduces control into fear itself. When these two forces collide, the battle becomes more than supernatural. It becomes a struggle between unpredictability and psychological domination. At first glance, Beetlejuice appears to embody pure supernatural chaos. His abilities are unpredictable, his physical form nearly impossible to destroy, and his willingness to manipulate reality borders on cartoonish absurdity. For most opponents, this makes him extremely difficult to contain. There are no patterns to anticipate and no clear limits to the transformations he can unleash. Yet this same unpredictability is also his weakness. Beetlejuice rarely approaches conflict with discipline. He treats danger like entertainment, often prolonging situations simply because he enjoys the spectacle. Freddy Krueger, by contrast, thrives on calculated psychological control. His strength does not come from randomness, but from manipulation. Every environment he shapes serves a purpose. Every attack is designed to escalate fear and strip away resistance. However, Freddy's greatest advantage has a boundary. His dominance relies heavily on dream logic and the vulnerability of human minds. In a space where dream and death overlap, that authority may not be absolute, which raises the true question of this encounter. Is reality more vulnerable to chaos or to fear?
I'm coming for you.
The corridor. Between dream and death stretches endlessly in both directions, a dim hallway lined with doors that lead nowhere and everywhere at once. Pale lights flicker above, casting long shadows that seem to breathe with the rhythm of fading consciousness. This is where a dying mind hesitates before surrendering to silence. Freddy arrives first. The hallway shifts the moment he appears. Rust stains creep across the walls. Pipes twist through the ceiling. The distant echo of metal scraping metal begins to pulse through the corridor like a heartbeat. Freddy Krueger walks slowly through the haze, his burned face curling into a familiar smile, as he senses fear lingering in the air. But the fear is not directed at him. A loud, obnoxious laugh erupts somewhere behind him. Beetlejuice bursts from one of the corridor doors as if kicked out of another dimension entirely, his striped suit flickering between forms as his body briefly stretches and snaps back into place. He looks around the hallway with exaggerated curiosity, brushing dust from his jacket. For a moment, neither attacks. Freddy tilts his head, studying the strange ghost before him. This is not a dreaming teenager, trembling beneath blankets. This presence feels wrong, detached from the fragile psychology Freddy usually exploits. Beetlejuice grins, then the corridor explodes into madness. The walls bend outward like rubber as Beetlejuice snaps his fingers. The floor transforms into a spiraling staircase that twists the hallway into impossible geometry. Freddy responds instantly. The environment obeys him as well. The corridor melts into the rusted boiler room of Elm Street, steam bursting from pipes as the temperature rises. For a brief moment, both realities overlap. Freddy lunges forward, blades slashing through Beetlejuice's torso. The ghost splits apart like smoke, reforming behind him with theatrical applause. Beetlejuice retaliates by transforming his arms into grotesque serpents that snap toward Freddy's head, forcing the dream demon backward. Freddy snarls and drags his claws across the air itself. The corridor darkens instantly as gravity collapses. Dozens of Freddy clones step from the shadows, surrounding Beetlejuice in a tightening circle. Beetlejuice pauses. Then he laughs louder than before. His body suddenly inflates into a monstrous carnival caricature, swallowing several Freddys whole, while the hallway fractures into surreal colors and impossible shapes. The dream environment begins to destabilize under the weight of Beetlejuice's chaotic reality warping. For the first time, Freddy hesitates. The corridor begins collapsing as dream logic and afterlife magic violently contradict one another. Doors rip open into voids. The floor fractures into floating fragments of memory and death. Neither entity appears capable of destroying the other, but the battlefield itself cannot survive their presence. As the corridor shatters completely, both figures vanish into the collapsing tear between dream and death, and silence returns once more. In the end, the outcome of this confrontation depends on a single fundamental question. Which force is more stable when reality itself begins to collapse? Freddy Krueger's power is terrifying within the structure of dreams. He dominates fear, reshapes environments, and turns the human subconscious into his personal hunting ground. But Beetlejuice does not operate within the boundaries of human psychology. He is not sustained by fear, nor limited by dream logic. His existence is tied to the chaotic mechanics of the afterlife, where physical form and logical consistency barely matter. In a battlefield where dream rules begin to fracture, Freddy loses the structure that empowers him. Beetlejuice, however, thrives when structure disappears. For that reason, the advantage ultimately leans toward the ghost, who turns reality itself into a punchline. The winner is Beetlejuice. So, what do you think? When nightmare collides with supernatural chaos, who truly deserves the victory? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to subscribe for more cinematic horror battles like this one.
You think this place still belongs to you? Duh! It never belonged to you. Then I will remake it. You will be removed.
A radiation leak spreads silently through a once living forest, twisting it into something that refuses to die. Trees stand hollow yet breathing, their roots pulsing beneath poisoned soil. Life has not vanished here. It has changed. Drawn by the disturbance, Swamp Thing emerges as the voice of the green, seeking to restore balance. At the same time, Toxic Avenger is pulled toward the source, empowered by the very contamination that corrupted the land. In this dead forest, where nature and toxicity have merged into one unstable ecosystem, only one force can define what this new world becomes. On one side, we have Swamp Thing, not merely a creature, but the living consciousness of all plant life on Earth. His body is not fixed. It is grown, reshaped, and reformed from roots, vines, and decaying organic matter. Towering and heavy, yet never truly slow, every step he takes causes the ground itself to respond, as if the forest recognizes its guardian. His presence is not loud, but it is overwhelming. It is the quiet pressure of nature, asserting its right to exist. On the other side stands Toxic Avenger, a being born not from nature, but from its corruption. His body is deformed, uneven, and scarred by chemical waste. Yet, that very destruction fuels his strength. He does not heal the environment. He thrives in its decay. Wherever he moves, the air feels heavier, the ground more unstable, as if the world itself is reacting to something unnatural. One represents life struggling to reclaim itself. The other is the product of its failure. When nature confronts its own contamination, which one truly deserves to survive? We regularly post videos like this one, pitting iconic horror characters against each other to determine who would win. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of these epic showdowns. Swamp Thing is not a man transformed. He is a misconception given form. What was once Alec Holland is no longer present in the way most would understand identity. Instead, Swamp Thing is an extension of the Green, the vast elemental force that connects all plant life across the planet. He does not rely on a single body. He inhabits vegetation itself, able to reconstruct his form from any nearby plant matter, making destruction of his physical shell almost meaningless. His strength is not just physical, though it is immense. He can overpower most opponents through sheer mass and regenerative capability, but his true power lies in control. He commands plant life on a global scale, manipulates the environment, and can adapt instantly to threats by reshaping his own body into whatever is required. More importantly, Swamp Thing does not fight with anger. He acts with purpose. He is balance given motion, responding only when that balance is threatened. But Toxic Avenger is not a simple threat. He is not something that belongs to the natural order Swamp Thing understands, and that makes him far more unpredictable. Toxic Avenger is not a guardian of nature. He is what remains when nature is ignored, poisoned, and abandoned. Once an ordinary human, his transformation through toxic waste did not just mutate his body. It redefined what sustains him. Radiation, chemicals, and environmental corruption are not weaknesses. They are sources of strength. His physical power is raw and immediate. Despite his grotesque appearance, he possesses superhuman strength capable of overwhelming conventional opponents. His durability allows him to endure punishment that would destroy normal beings, and his resistance to toxins makes him uniquely suited for environments that would cripple others. What defines Toxic Avenger, however, is not just power, but contradiction. He is both hero and byproduct of catastrophe. He fights injustice, yet embodies its consequences. His methods are direct, brutal, and often unrefined. He does not control the environment. He reacts to it, using whatever chaos surrounds him as fuel. Against Swamp Thing, this creates a dangerous contrast. One is harmony, trying to restore order. The other is imbalance that has learned how to survive. This is not a traditional clash of strength, because both entities draw power from the environment itself, yet in completely opposite ways. Swamp Thing's advantage lies in scale and adaptability. As long as plant life exists, he can regenerate, reposition, and reshape the battlefield to his will. His connection to the Green gives him reach far beyond his physical form. Toxic Avenger, however, thrives where that system breaks down. The more corrupted the environment becomes, the more it favors him. Radiation, chemical decay, and instability do not weaken him. They reinforce him. The question is not who is stronger in isolation, but which condition dominates the battlefield. If life can reclaim the poisoned land, Swamp Thing gains control. If corruption spreads faster than it can be healed, Toxic Avenger becomes increasingly difficult to stop. So this becomes something deeper than power. Is this a battle of strength, or a battle of which state of the world prevails? The forest does not move with wind. It pulses. The air is thick with metallic decay, and the ground shifts underfoot like something half alive, half rotten. A low hum lingers, not from sound, but from radiation saturating everything. Swamp Thing rises first, not by stepping forward, but by assembling himself from the broken vegetation. Roots twist upward. Blackened vines knit together. A towering form pulls itself from the poisoned earth. Across from him, Toxic Avenger emerges through a shallow pool of glowing sludge. Each step he takes leaves behind a faint burn in the soil. The liquid clings to him, feeding into his already warped frame. There is no hesitation. The ground erupts. Thick tendrils surge forward from every direction, snapping toward Toxic Avenger with crushing force. They wrap around his limbs, his torso, attempting to immobilize him before he can advance. For a moment, it works. Then the vines begin to decay. Where they touch him, they blacken, soften, and collapse into sludge. Toxic Avenger pushes forward, tearing through the restraint, each movement spreading more contamination into the surrounding growth. Swamp Thing does not retreat. The forest reacts. New growth bursts upward, faster this time, denser, reinforced. Massive roots split the ground apart, attempting to overwhelm Toxic Avenger through sheer volume. The terrain itself begins to shift, pulling him downward, trying to bury him beneath layers of living matter. Toxic Avenger answers with force. He drives forward, ripping through roots, smashing through trunks, his strikes crude but devastating. Each impact sends fragments of corrupted biomass outward, spreading instability through Swamp Thing's constructs. The battlefield becomes a war between growth and decay, each second altering the terrain. Swamp Thing adapts. His form expands, becoming less defined, less reliant on a single body. Vines extend farther, striking from multiple angles. The ground beneath Toxic Avenger suddenly gives way as a mass of roots drags him downward into the soil. For the first time, he disappears beneath the surface. The forest tightens. Pressure builds from all sides, layers of plant matter compressing, attempting to contain and isolate him from the contamination he feeds on. Then, the ground cracks open. A surge of toxic sludge erupts upward, tearing through the roots from below. Toxic Avenger bursts free, stronger, more unstable, his body dripping with concentrated radiation. The surrounding plant life begins to wither faster than it can regrow. For a moment, the forest loses cohesion. That moment is enough. Swamp Thing shifts strategy. Instead of attacking the body, he targets the system. The remaining plant life pulls back, not in retreat, but in focus. Deep beneath the surface, untouched root networks begin to draw in what little uncorrupted nutrients remain. Fresh growth forces its way upward, cleaner, denser, resisting the spread of toxicity rather than absorbing it. Toxic Avenger charges, but the terrain changes beneath him. The ground hardens with living structure. Vines no longer decay on contact. They constrict, layer by layer, isolating him from the surrounding sludge. His movements slow, not from damage, but from restriction. The environment begins to shift away from him. Less poison, more life. Swamp Thing closes in, not with speed, but with inevitability. His mass envelops Toxic Avenger, binding him within layers of reinforced plant matter that no longer break down on contact. The struggle continues, violent but contained. And slowly, the forest stops reacting to Toxic Avenger. It no longer feeds him. It rejects him. The movement fades. The forest stabilizes. Swamp Thing remains standing. Swamp Thing wins.
You know, I've met worse things than you. Most of them owed me money.
Then perhaps you wish this encounter ends differently.
Careful. That almost sounded like a sales pitch.
Everyone wants something, John. The question is, how much suffering are you willing to define it with?
Funny thing about definitions. I've made a career out of breaking them.
The city does not fall in a single moment. It unravels through mistakes. Symbols drawn incorrectly. Rituals spoken with the wrong intent. Doors opened by people who never understood what they were inviting in. At the center of it all, an ancient artifact awakens. The Dream Stone. A relic that does not simply grant wishes, but twists them into something far worse. John Constantine arrives to contain the damage, to shut down the chain of broken magic before it spreads beyond control. But this time, the problem is not the wishes themselves. It is what answers them. Because somewhere within the collapsing city, the Wishmaster has already begun listening. On one side, we have John Constantine, a man who looks like he belongs in a gutter rather than a battlefield of gods. Average height, thin to the point of decay, cigarette always close to his lips, eyes carrying the weight of too many deals he should not have survived. But Constantine is not defined by strength or purity. He is defined by survival. A con man who tricks demons. A magician who weaponizes knowledge. Every step he takes is calculated, every word chosen like a blade hidden inside a joke. He does not overpower darkness. He outlives it. On the other side stands the Wishmaster, an ancient jinn unbound from moral law, a being whose very existence turns desire into a weapon. His form shifts between elegance and something far more grotesque, as if reality itself struggles to contain what he truly is. He does not attack. He offers. Every word he speaks is a trap.